Gaza Health Ministry does not distinguish between civilians and combatants.
This is it, right? A seaside refuge in Gaza torn apart by an Israeli strike. The Israeli military said it killed at least 3 Hamas operatives at Al Baqa Cafe. It also killed a journalist, an artist, and 2 best friends reconciling after a fight.
Starting with Hamas operatives, they said that they got him with no evidence. And I think one of the ties was that it was like the nephew of a Hamas commando who was just in the army there, but you're allowed to kill him while he's drinking coffee.
Yeah.
It was, just a few paragraphs down where they're saying like,
if the New York Times' metric, or because the New York Times' metric for like enemy combatant is whatever Israel says is an enemy combatant. If Israel's rules for declaring someone an enemy combatant was appropriate and was adjusted for the Palestinian side, you could nuke Tel Aviv and it would be considered a legal thing to do. And the reason, and I don't think that's appropriate, obviously,
but that's true.
But anyone that is even remotely associated with the Israeli occupying force in any capacity or is a part of any of the Israeli governing parties, part of the war coalition parties, or any party with the exception of any person that has ever served in the IDF would be a enemy combatant at all points. Doesn't matter if they're 50, doesn't matter if they're 70, doesn't matter if they're like literally the
janitor at the Mossad, satellite campus or whatever.
Yeah, or even like a fucking 75-year-old retired IDF operative that has spent his life being an anti-Zionist after that. That would still be like a valid military target by Israel's designation, because they just say it doesn't matter. This person was connected to a Hamas militant, and now they don't even have to be a militant who is actively in combat. They can just be a Hamas official from the Politburo that is tasked with civil governance, like the trash collector. You know what I mean? The head
journalists,
of
that's the big thing with journalists. They just
the head of Hamas
fabricate
sanitation, civil servants.
Yeah.
Or journalists, exactly.
Make kill lists because of any. I mean, I don't know, like the example of the UNRWA defunding, where it was like out of the 13,000 employees in UNRWA, it was that 13 employees were allegedly, by the Israeli military's allegations, associated with Hamas or associated with October 7th. They had no evidence for that, but even if that were true, all that means is that members of the militant group have day jobs with UNRWA. That's all that means. But of course, you can, lay the groundwork to starve children, as we're seeing right now, from 2 years of stripping funding from like the biggest organization operating in Gaza. Crazy.
Yeah. Our medical workers included. Everyone is included.
Everyone.
Because Hamas both has the Al-Aqsa Brigades, which is the militant wing, and it has the Civil Governance Political Bureau. Okay? The civil governance is like tasked with the education ministry, healthcare, things of that nature, trash collection, right? Infrastructure. And that's also still Hamas. That is the only governing party in Gaza. Okay? And therefore, didn't I say Al-Qassam Brigades? Did I say Al-Aqsa? Sorry, Al-Qassam Brigades is the militant wing. Al-Aqsa Flood is the October 7th operation that was named the Al-Aqsa Flood. And apologies. Yeah, they have the Israeli government has basically openly targeted, the agriculture minister or the head of police. Like, it's completely unacceptable. It is a direct war crime.
It's the power of like the terrorism designation, right?
Yeah, but
that's
also
the bad guy, and I mean Hamas, being
exactly. No, that's why that's precisely why that vague definition exists to begin with.
Yeah.
And they're using and abusing that. They're spamming that as aggressively as they possibly can. And it's clearly not working as well as it used to, but it doesn't really matter because for the media, it's enough. And there's still plenty of people who, when they hear "but Hamas," there's plenty of people who just agree with it.
That's why they put it right in this subheading there, right? They're like, I mean, dude, fucking, I don't know, 32 people were killed by Israel. They completely destroyed this cafe. I did a video on this. Like, oh my God, Channel 4 covered it. The British outlet Channel 4 covered it pretty well because they're like, dude, these 2 young women were reconciling a fight that they had and they were texting their family about it and they just blew the whole thing up. And all of what happened there, the mass slaughter, is just summarized here. They're like, okay, it blew up, and then probably there was a Hamas guy there. So the average American reader that has been, propagandized to believe that that's evil, there was an evil, barbaric, rapist, evil, like Hitler in there means, okay, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, and that is, again, totally inappropriate. That is completely ridiculous. It is illegal, okay? There are rules of warfare. There's rules of combat. There are rules for combat for a good reason. And people have tried to abide by said rules. They've obviously expanded on them aggressively over the course of many years, but you can't just shoot and kill someone even if they are literally a fucking militant otherwise, okay? They're not actively in combat. You just can't go up and like kill a veteran. You know what I mean? Or you can't go up and kill someone who is in the military, but they're off duty.
No, that you understand, like if they're getting treated in a hospital, the hospital's a valid military target now.
Yeah, that's insane to me that like
already
Israel,
wounded from being attacked, laying in a hospital bed, drinking coffee at a cafe.
like you can't even do that. And we don't even have evidence that these guys were that person to begin with. So yeah, that's another thing that we're going to talk about. Don't worry. Saw an Atlantic article with the headline "Hamas wants Gaza to starve."
Oh, that one.
We can start
bastard.
off. We can start off with that. So you've tackled a bunch of like the slop tubers and the ways in which they have defended Israel's genocide, but they haven't like. There's varying degrees of Hasbara defense of Israel out there, right? And I think what a lot of the slop tubers have decided to do is instead of like tackling the issue head on and really talking about the politics of it or the policies or the ideology behind Israel's actions or Zionism or any number of different things that they could cover, they've decided to cover this from the aspect of drama by basically positioning themselves against people like myself, yourself, and many other content creators who were unafraid to openly state their opinion about Israel, even immediately after October 7. And they basically rode the wave of enmity for as long as they could.
What does enmity mean? Sorry.
Resentment,
Oh,
hatred.
yeah, okay,
Yeah. Having said that, however, they've been noticeably absent from the conversation. If you notice, like in the past couple of months, I would say,
as the tide is turning on public opinion, yeah,
and the tide shift has already taken place, and now I think for even their fan bases, like they realize this is, even for their fan bases, this is like a non-starter, right? So they have been forced to change tactics, I guess, and like hyper focus on drama on other things.
Yeah, it's like the whatever framework of content that's been used to see like, okay, this guy online said something that's like kind of left politics. I'm right wing, so I'm gonna clip that thing out of context, make a whole video about it, make a bunch of money off of it. The videos do well. Everybody makes the same video, so that way it boosts it in the algorithm. They're all friends. They low-key collaborate or they low-key watch each other's videos, and it's the same video where they say, oh, that guy's doing terrorism. That's the framework of how the content ecosystem works. And then a genocide starts happening, or a genocide escalates to the point of a very visible and obvious and well-documented genocide. My goat. And then now, I mean, this is a totally unprecedented thing, but what happens is they apply that same framework to an actual genocide, and all of your criticism of the genocide is towards the people that are opposing it and fighting against it. And at that point, you're helping the genocide. Like, you're backing it. That was the big thing they got mad at me and tried to sue me for, is like, you can either fight against a genocide or back a genocide. There's no middle ground here. And if the only time you spend talking about it is attacking the people that criticize it and attacking the people that have, been vocal anti-Zionists, or attacking the groups in the world that are resisting militarily as terrorists or whatever, then you're helping. You're just backing. It's one or the other, right? And they chose that one because they don't like a YouTuber, right? That's the whole thing.
Look at the comments. They lost the narrative. Oh yeah, the Atlantic posted Hamas wants Gaza to starve. This is by Ahmed Fouad Al-Khatib. You might be familiar with who this person is. Maybe because you saw me cover him before. He's attacked me as well. He is the only supposedly pro-Palestinian voice who is Palestinian himself, even though he calls himself Gazan. Okay, not Palestinian. Never met a Palestinian who says I'm Gazan instead of saying that they're Palestinian first, except for Ahmed Fouad Al-Khatib. Ethan Klein had him on his broadcast. They literally fundraised for the Atlantic Council, which Ahmed Fouad Al-Khatib is a part of. Atlantic Council is a pro-NATO right-wing think tank.
Funded by the U.S. Defense Department, primarily?
Yes. Ahmed, we're gonna do a deeper dive into this, because now that the toothpaste is out of the tube, cat's out of the bag, people are recognizing that Israel is deliberately starving the Palestinian population, and it's one of those it's one of those things that's like an undeniable war crime of epic proportions, and it's brought out harrowing images that even mainstream media has had to cover. More and more people are recognizing this devastating reality. So of course, as time goes on, those who are tasked with defending Israel in its weakest moments for PR are getting more ridiculous.
Yeah, they have quite the heavy burden to refute 1,000 pages of reports from humanitarian organizations accusing Israel of genocide. You're going to write an op-ed like Brett Stevens that's 3 pages trying to refute 1,000 pages of evidence. You can't do that. You can't do that, and the comments will immediately reflect that. Like, the shift is crazy to see. I mean, it's not crazy. It was inevitable, but seeing it happen and how fast it's happening now, as it's like the liberal establishment is kind of like, if you have Obama calling for aid to Gaza, that means something. That has to be a big deal in terms of like public perception. But like, yeah, it's fucking crazy.
I didn't say he's pro-Palestine. I said he's pro-Palestine in air quotes.
You talking about that guy?
Yeah.
Ahmed Fuad Al-Khatib.
This is
the collaborator guy.
He is different than the average like Israeli ultranationalist, right? He's not. He is Palestinian. He has family in Gaza. Many of his family members have been slaughtered by the Israeli state. He is a collaborator. Okay, he's a collaborator with the Israeli state that works with an American think tank that is, of course, understandably pro-Israel. America is pro-Israel. It is an American State Department cutout, right? And as time goes on, these guys are going to become increasingly belligerent and look dumber and dumber. But of course, The Atlantic wrote this piece. Hamas wants Gaza to starve. This is the only Palestinian voice Ethan Klein had it on his Hasbara podcast, wrote an article defending Israel after the world finally woke up to the famine it created. For a guy who loves to call all anti-Zionist Jews tokens, he sure loves using Israel's Arab/Palestinian collaborators.
This guy was a nobody before October 7th.
Greg J. Stoker, yeah.
Oh, no, I mean, Ahmed Fuad Al-Khatib.
I thought you were talking about Greg J. Stoker.
Oh, no, yeah, fuck this. No, that's the
he's cool. I like
military analysis type of guy.
Yeah. He works for Mint Press. Mint Press is great.
Yeah. But the guy who wrote this like article, like at this point to make this claim and to frame it this way, you kind of have to be like a moron or paid by the Atlantic Council, because that makes perfect sense. And with people like this, based on like what they write and say about it, it's sometimes one or the other. Like there's more obvious upfront propagandists like that the Mossad guy, what's his name, that just got nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. What's his name?
Mint Press is a literal fascist organization. What?
Is it?
No.
Did you just do a fascism?
No, it's not. What the fuck?
I love that you talk to your chat.
Yeah, it's
what is it called? Getting
not,
one guide? Is that a thing? I learned about that the other day.
I do get one guide quite a bit.
That was just one message.
He said, sorry, I'm just bored.
We're making history right now, and you're gonna interrupt because you're bored.
Yeah, no, that's normal. Okay,
but that's part of the history is getting interrupted.
The Palestinian who wrote this travesty has a master's in intelligence studies from American University and has written pieces for the Washington Institute of Near East Policy, a think tank founded by AIPAC in 1985. He now runs the Realign for Palestine program at the Atlantic Council, another think tank and CIA cutout. On Twitter, he openly reposts virulent Israeli Hasbaras and wages war against liberatory language. Okay? Ram and every other hostage should be set free immediately, and food should flow freely to starving Palestinians. There's too much suffering. It will only. I mean, I don't think this is a good example of mentioning.
Oh, the suffering, won't end when this theoretical thing happens that you want.
No, I'm saying like this is not the best example of his retweet of someone who is like a virulent Hasbarist.
Oh, yeah.
But he does do that. I'm not saying Chef Jose Andres is a virulent Hasbarist, but he does certainly highlight a lot of virulent Hasbarists in general. But he always tries to angle it from the perspective of like, I'm a Palestinian, my family has been killed by Israel, and I think the real enemy here is not Israel, but it's actually Hamas. Okay,
that one was crazy. What was the headline? Israel killed, or I don't think he said it that way. It's like 37 members of my family were killed by Israel. But
college protesters that love Hamas are the problem.
Right. Yeah.
Something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's when you usually know. Like when someone is hypes your opinions, this is who you are, and that's why you were elevated. But with Israel, I think like it has gone beyond that for sure, because it's such a glaringly obvious instance of harm, and it is diametrically opposite to the interests of America's State Department goals in the region. And therefore, there is direct hands-on editorial control in a way that we haven't seen prior.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's part of like what has been unearthed is like you're trying to contain this project like of settler colonialism, of genocide. And when it becomes this overt, it's like you can only contain it so long, the lies, repeatedly seeing them over again. And now being, I think, more cognizant of the way more subtle things about like language, omission, like you were saying, things they choose to cover. Like I don't think the New York Times covered the Hannibal Directive at all, and I don't think the New York Times covered. There's another really significant one. Like they've barely reported on anything. Journalists being killed in Gaza. And it's like, yeah, it's all been galvanized by this whole process. And as horrific as everything going on is, obviously, it's like public perception has changed so much in the last 2 years. It's kind of stunning.
Oh, the rape protest, the pro-rape riots.
Oh, they didn't cover that. The right to rape. Oh my God.
Yeah, the right to rape rally.
Jesus. Yeah.
And when they do, they will bury the lead. They'll add this additional information, like they'll hide it in the bottom of the article.
Dude, this
the,
one
the headline, the most important part of the article is obviously always like passive voice that
kids
makes
are starving in Gaza. They're
Yeah.
hungry. We don't know why. Just something's happening, and that's the result. There was a article they did on the Al Baqa cafe bombing like 2 days ago, and it's crazy because this is the piece that's supposed to be covering Israel in a somewhat critical manner. It's like an indefensible war crime that happens.
Yeah.
But the first, you'll see in the first paragraph when they talk about casualties in Gaza, they make sure to stipulate that
straight up from the global south. And I can't even hate on them that much because, like, one, they're brown, okay? But also they're making money. You know what I mean? Like, they're making real money. That's like you're feeding your family doing that. Okay? They're farming dumbass Westerners to make money, to make real money, like consequential money that would help them.
What's that Zionist account that's like a wolf, like an AI wolf?
Yeah, the
and
one
it's like based
Uttar
in,
Pradesh.
yeah.
Yeah.
I always see Muin Ravani like
Vivian,
replying to it and being
what
like,
is it?
why are you tweeting this?
Vivid, something vivid.
Vivid princess or something. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, they're
Vivid.
attacking us right now.
Vivid prowess. Yeah.
Vivid
That's
prowess.
one of my favorites.
Yeah, pro-Israel and pro-white supremacists. Yeah, most of that shit is like botted. But there's a drift towards fashion being a racially indiscriminate doctrine that promotes hate towards an other rather than just any brown people. No, but it still very much promotes hate towards any brown people. It's just weirdly enough being championed by people who are not.
I think like with the
who are
Candace
not white.
Owens, like the anti-Semit, that's her biggest thing probably, right? The anti-Semitism, like at least right now. I mean, along with a lot of other stuff, but she's getting, there's like kind of like what, a coalition of white supremacists and like people like Candace Owens, who is also a white supremacist. It's like, I don't see color, I just hate Jews kind of thing.
Yeah. But then there's also like